Hallo. Oké. We laten je weten wanneer je bent begonnen met uitzenden. Oké. Peter, waar ben jij?
Ja, ik probeer op beeld te komen.
Oké.
Kom je heel lastig.
Ik zie nog... Oh, kijk. Felicia is online.
Kijk. Zo
Dat
moet
is
dat.
exact.
Helemaal goed.
Hoi. Oh, er zijn meer mensen. Oké, ik word nu een beetje zinnig. Dat is gezellig. Okay, I think I'm just going to switch to English now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we should. Should we perhaps wait like a minute?
Yes, I think so
for
too.
people to tune in?
Yes, exactly. So we're just going to wait a few seconds and then we're going to and then we're going to talk about this. Or actually you're mainly going to talk about this boat. Yeah. And I'm going to be like a big fangirl about the boat. Can you all hear me properly? Because I actually didn't test this. That would be nice if you could hear us.
Can someone put a thumbs up?
Or
if you can hear us, or just
like,
yes?
This is scaring me now.
Do you hear us at all? Maybe because...
Oh, loud and clear.
Also, if I'm over here, do you hear me?
Can you still hear Peter? Uh-oh.
Can you guys hear me over there?
Yes, okay.
Yeah?
Ja, Felicia stuurt een duimpje.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, I guess let's just start, I guess. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes, there we are.
Loud and clear. Okay. Hello, I'm Vera from Elle anno 1350. 1370. I am a photographer, a museum teacher, and a professional nerd, I guess. And I'm joined here today by Peter.
Yes, I'm another professional nerd. I'm an archaeologist at the Archeologie Rotterdam. And I'm also an assistant depot manager. And today we're going to talk about this lovely boat over here.
Yes, like I've been calling it the sexy boat, because I think this boat is pretty amazing, and Peter is going to tell you all about why it's a very amazing artifact. We're here live from the Museum Rotterdam, which is our municipality museum of the city of Rotterdam. They have a lot of lovely stuff on display, but today we're going to focus on the boats. So I'm quickly going to tell you what we're going to... Oh, you have to talk louder,
yep,
Peter.
I see.
So we're quickly going to talk about, tell you what we're going to talk about, and then I will switch to Peter for it. So, we're going to talk about the special connection, what this boat has with the city of Rotterdam. We're going to talk about the boat itself, how it's been used. We're also going to, Peter is also going to speak on his archaeological context in which the boat was found, and dendrologisch onderzoek. What's English for dendrologisch?
Dendrochronological research.
Dendrochronological research, which was performed on this special artifact. And after that, we will do a Q&A if people are going to stick around that long. But of course, people also sent in some questions on forehand, so we're also going to use them. So I'm going to switch now to the other side of the... Okay. So, Peter.
Yes.
This boat has got a special connection to the city. Can you tell us why this boat has a special connection to the city?
Of course. Well, first of all, this boat was found in Rotterdam. And, basically, without this boat, there wouldn't really be a Rotterdam like we know it nowadays. So, as you see it, it is a punt. It's not a regular boat, it's a punt, but we'll get into that further on. And it's actually the oldest punt that we have found in the Netherlands, in fact, and it is the most complete as well. So it really is a special thing. It is.
So I understand that people have tried to live in Rotterdam. Of course, I live here, so I know it's an amazing city, but they haven't been able to stay here. Like, it's been populated off and on, and then people disappeared again. And this boat made it possible to stay here in the city of Rotterdam.
Right.
So,
yes.
Why?
Why? Yeah. Well, Rotterdam wasn't like this before. Of course, it's what used to be a town. it's close to the Maas, the river, the big river, and we also have the Rotte, which is a river that comes from the north and goes to the Maas in the south. This complicated things for people in the early or middle medieval period, because floods were frequent, and when floods are frequent, it's not a nice place to live. So people tried raising their homes to get their feet dry. Stuff went swimmingly for a while. No, well, not swimmingly, of course, because they weren't swimming; they were dry. But after a while, they couldn't really settle, and from the 3rd century, 500 years onwards, there was no population in Rotterdam, and then they came back because it was still a nice place to live because of the floods.
Yes, just popping in there.
Okay.
It's yeah.
It's a very nice place to live because the ground is very fertile due to the river, and because of all the floods, there was a nice layer of clay over the terrain, which made it good to have to start a farm over here.
Mm-hmm.
So people came back over here, but they really needed.
But the floods were really annoying.
The floods were annoying. Indeed. Yeah. Also in the 12th century there were some floods, but they came up with a plan.
Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go over there.
Ik ga even aan de andere kant staan.
This is what the plan looked like. Here we have it. This is part of the plan, because first off they started building a dam, because the river Rotte was causing so much trouble. They were having a lot of water problems, so they needed to control the water flow in and out of the city. So they started building a dam approximately 500 meters long, in order to force the river into the right area, basically. But you can't only build a dam, of course, you also need to build a lock like this. This lock would be the new way for the river to flow, and hereby controlling the water that went in and out the city. So they built a dam. The dam, that was a lot of work, of course. It took many years. And simultaneously they were building this lock inside the dam so they could regulate the water. And to finish off the dam, and that is what the most interesting part of this is, they needed one last piece of the puzzle. And like a cork in a bottle, they sank this boat, this punt, in order to close the dam and eradicate all possibilities of floods, as far as they thought at the time anyway. So now instead of the natural river, they had this lock to control the waterways.
Yeah, so the fun thing is, similar boats like this could still fit through the water lock, right?
Yes, similar boats like this, but not major ships, like small boats and small barges to carry heavy loads and cows and stuff. They were able to pass through the lock, but you couldn't have a seaworthy ship. That wasn't possible, because as you see, there's also a roof to this lock, so and two walls on either side. So you can't really have a very good boat because it would get stuck and then close off the lock, and you'll have big troubles.
You have big troubles then, yeah. This boat was used to lock off like the last part of the dam. Like, why do you need to do that? Why don't just make a dam, and why use the boat?
As a dam comes to its completion, the pressure of the water that wants to go through the dam builds up. So the final piece, where you can just dump some sand in the water, but it will go through the hole in the dam. So they needed something big, like a band-aid on a wound, to stop the bleeding, as it were. So they sank this boat and immediately shut off most of the hole that was in the dam. They also put on a lot of branches and clay and sand and stuff to seal it up, but it was basically like a band-aid, actually, yeah.
Oh, but isn't that, why sink a perfectly good boat to fill up a dam?
That's a good question. It was, as far as we know, a boat that could float. it was a workable boat, but it had some troubles to it as well. But the actual reason why this particular boat was sank is not really clear. It might have been out of use. It might have been just close by because they needed a boat quickly.
Maybe it was just the best size.
Maybe it was the best size.
Yeah,
it's all possibilities. Yeah.
So let's talk about the boat, because now it has, in the end, it has been used to seal off the dam.
Yeah.
But what kind of boat is this?
Well, it's a punt, and some of you might know it if you've ever been to the Venice of the Netherlands, Giethoorn, because punts are still being used over there. So you can still rent them. It's a small boat. This boat is approximately 5.6 meters long, 1.2 meters wide, and half a meter high. And it was easy to maneuver. These type of boats were in use from the Roman era up to now. They're still being made also in Giethoorn. So,
but
yes.
But where do you use them for? Like in Giethoorn right now, you can use them to like sail around and drink some wine.
Yeah,
like, is this built to sail around and drink some wine or?
Well, waterways have been used throughout the ages as a means of transportation. So boats were just a very convenient way to move stuff from one place to another. So you could use, you could put cattle in it, you could put people in it, stuff you want to bring to the marketplace, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's more like personal transportation for a family or for a small business that needs to transport their stuff.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, like, who made this? Is this made by was this like a ambacht, like a professional trade, or did somebody make it by themselves?
As far as our research has concluded, we can say that the boat was made by someone who had experience with woodworking. That much we know, because it's a boat. First of all, someone managed to make something into the shape of a boat, and it is recognizable as a punt. But if we look at the wood that has been used in this boat, there are some odd things. So if we can just take a look at the boat itself, you can see it has multiple bits to it. You have the walls.
Ik loop even naar je toe nog.
So you have the sides of the boat itself. You have the floor, the horizontal bit, and you have the joints linking those together. Commonly, boats were made of oak. Oak is a very sustainable wood. It's very strong. It's very sustainable, and it's easy to work with. And almost every boat was made with oak. But this boat, there's something particular with it, because 3 of the floorboards have been made with alder wood. So that's not oak. Furthermore, some of the joints, so the bits that are at an angle, are made of ash. 4 of them are made of ash. And not all the pegs are made of oak as well. Some are made of willow. So there are some strange things going on, and we've been trying to figure out why isn't it just all oak?
Yeah, budget is one of the reasons, right? Because we don't have that many oaks growing around these parts, right?
Yeah, it's a theory we have indeed, because oak is expensive. It grows quite slowly, which is why it's so strong. So that is one of the reasons, but we cannot be entirely sure about that. It could also have been that there wasn't enough oak around. That could also have been, because you need big planks, and the oaks need to be big enough to make the wood into planks. So you needed like a forest of oaks to be able to build a few boats.
Yeah, but isn't this so why make a boat out of bad wood? Like, or is it actually quite smart in some ways?
Well, the person who made the boat, he did think about it, because, as I told before, the floorboards are made of alder wood, and alder wood, it's very practical when it's in the water, because it will survive in the water quite well. And if we look at the joints, those are made of ash. Ash is not particularly well a material to use in the water, but it's very strong, and that's the exact thing it needs to do. It needs to be strong, because of course you get some water inside the boat, but it's not like it's in the water constantly. All the wood is good for being in the water, and ash is strong enough to survive as a construction method.
So it's made by somebody who didn't know what they were doing, at least.
He knew his stuff. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So maybe oak was too expensive. Maybe they didn't have enough. Maybe it was coincidence. We don't know. But it looks as though the guy who made it, who probably wasn't a real boat maker, knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and also in the construction of the boat, something interesting happened, right? Because you don't just chop little pieces and attach it together. You need to bend the wood as well to create the shape.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, which is common in almost all types of boat making. If you have a plank and you want it into a curve, as we see at the front end.
Let's maybe stand over here.
Yeah.
So we can see the curves. Yes.
This ship has curves.
Yes.
As you can see, I hope you can. The walls curve towards the tip. So in order to curve those pieces of wood, you have to make them wet, basically, moistures at least. And then by using heat and pressure, you can bend the wood. And if you keep it in that position while it dries, you can take away the supports, and it will hopefully stay in the right bend.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Did they have like special ovens for that, or?
I am not entirely sure, to be completely honest with you. No. As you sometimes see with barrel making, they make a fire inside the barrel and spray the entire barrel wet. So you don't really need an oven. It might be more precise to get the temperature right, but it will have worked with regular fire as well. Yeah.
So I understand that this can float. I can also understand that it's like suited for small transportations of a few people or a few little cattle, some cattle or some crops. But how do you actually maneuver this thing around? Did they like pedal or?
Well, that's a very important one, because you have two types of punts. You have one that you can, as we call in Dutch, punteren. To punter, you use.
You can punt it about.
I guess so. Yes. That type of punt doesn't have anything. It's just a boat with a stick. You also have a sailing punt, and that one is used to sail with. Of course, you can also use the pole to maneuver yourself around. I guess it's a bit like what you do in Venice with the gondolas. But if it would have been a sailing punt, it would have had a rudder at the rear. It would have had lee boards at the side, so that if the wind came from the side,
it wouldn't just tip over.
It wouldn't tip over, or you wouldn't be pushed to one side. And it would have had a mast partner in the middle that would hold the mast.
Yes.
So usually that's a plank with a round hole in it, and also a plank at the bottom with a hole, so you can put the mast in and it will stay upright. This one clearly does not have such a mast partner, so a mast was not provided with this boat, so it is a regular punt.
So, but couldn't those things be lost over time?
Well, no. Yeah, of course they could have been lost over time, but they would have left tracks of where they've been, because a mast partner was integrated in the design, so you will have some recesses in the wood, for instance, where the plank would have been inserted. Also, if you look, it's a shame that the rear end of the punt.
Yes, we will get back to this.
It's a shame it has been remodeled, because it was lost. We'll get into that.
Yes.
So we can't really say if it had a rudder, but we assume, because there are no lee boards and no mast partner. But yeah.
Yeah, so actually I wanted to talk about like the archaeological dig anyway, because this boat was found in the city center of Rotterdam. But a very important question in that regard is, why did you guys find it? Because in contrary to a lot of people think, what a lot of people think. You don't just start digging and hope you find something. There was a reason to go digging at this specific place.
Yes, yes. Well, if we start from the beginning, as everyone knows, Rotterdam has of course been bombed in 1940, and it has destroyed a lot of the surface, but luckily a lot of the history in the soil itself has been preserved. A few years after the bombing, a lot was rebuilt. Especially, what we're going into now is the train tracks, the sky tracks, or the luchtspoor as we call it in Dutch. That was running through the center from north to south, through the city center of Rotterdam. In 1986, there were plans to reposition this track from not being above the ground but being underneath, to become a tunnel basically. So they needed to start digging, which is why also archaeologists were involved, because they did expect to find stuff, but they weren't really sure, so they kept archaeologists at hand to just survey the excavation works and jump in, as it were, to when they were needed. But soon after they started excavating the part of near the Hoogstraat, the city center, around between 1990 and 1991, they found out that they were really hitting a kind of jackpot, as it were, and archaeologists took over. So they put in these metal walls to create a safe environment for the archaeologists to dig in, and soon, slowly but surely, they leveled down the excavation site back in time.
Yes,
as it were.
and they just kept on finding stuff, right?
They kept on finding stuff.
Yeah, and at some point they were surprised by this.
Yeah. So really, the purpose of this excavation was not to find stuff, but to prevent the building works from destroying those finds. We're basically protecting what is in the soil, because the soil is the best place for archaeological remains to remain, because they've become accustomed to those environments.
No, but I want to have it, Peter. It cannot stay there. We need to dig up all the stuff.
I know.
So we can make nice recreations of it.
Yes. Well, of course, it's good to find it, because it will help educate people of their history, and it's the most tangible thing, especially a boat like this.
Exactly. So it's a spectacular find, and I understood that it was found 2 meters below ground surface. 10 meters below.
Below where we walk, indeed. Yeah.
So why is it still in such an amazing shape? Like, how did that happen?
Well, luckily it was at the start of the dam. So it was placed in the dam in the 13th century, in 1270 approximately, and that made it possible for deposits to be placed over the layers. Because, of course, Rotterdam, it's a city built on peat, so it's compressed.
Wait, on you? It's built.
No, it's not built on me.
Sorry. I broke him. I'm sorry, you guys.
But anyway, there's a lot of peat underneath. Yeah. And peat is quite soft. Yes. So every time when, for instance, a flooding happened, a layer of clay was deposited on top of this, and it pressed the peat down, which she's smiling all the time. It's really annoying. Which lowered the stuff that was on top of the peat. The peat itself as well was also compressed. Anyway,
yeah.
Over almost a millennium, so approximately 750 years, which is why we have this exhibition as well. The soil was pushed down, and that is why the boat came to be at such a low, so far below the current surface.
Yes.
Yes. That's what I wanted to say. Sorry for the bit just now. Vera keeps laughing at my name. So yes, the boat was covered under 750 years of sediment,
Just like my room.
I guess so.
Sorry.
It was actually sealed off. It became this boat came underneath the groundwater level, so it was hard for oxygen to get to the boat, and the clay that was deposited over it also made it very hard for the oxygen to get to the boat. So it was actually sealed off from time, as it were, and it has been sealed off from time for about 721 years.
So that is why it looks as it looks right now.
Well, that's why there's so much left.
Oh, I see. So
Yes.
you did some things to it.
We did some things to it. Well, yeah, so, a few people did some things to it, actually. Yes. Because
So how did it look like when you excavated it in 1991?
we have an image on
Oh.
this wall, and as you can see, well, I guess I'm just gonna. As you can see, it was settled in the ground, and if you look at the walls on the sides, they're pushed outwards.
So it was flattened.
It was flattened because of the many tons of clay on top of it. It was all deposited on top of it, and you can see there's a lot of deformation. But what also happened during the excavation is what we see at the end, because the boat didn't sink completely horizontally. It was tilted slightly downwards, so the back end was upwards and the tip was down. And since we as archaeologists usually work by removing layers which are horizontal, we first came across the back end, and the excavator tore it off, basically. So that was lost, that bit. But usually, because we have the front, we were able to reconstruct the rear end, and so creating a whole boat again. Yeah. So, yeah.
So it was flattened, and afterwards, can you just take a boat like this out of the ground and be done with it, or do you need to?
No, because there's a lot of problems that arise because it has not been exposed to oxygen, so nothing was able to live there. Most materials and fungi weren't able to survive, but now oxygen can go around and play with the boat, as it were. So you have to move quick. Next to that, you have the part of dehydration, because it was when you excavate something that's made of wood, it's very soft. It's like pulled pork. Is that a right word to say? If you
stewed meat.
Stewed meat. Yes. You can if you tear it apart. You have all these fibers, as it were.
A delicacy amongst archaeologists.
Yes, sorry, vegans, by the way. So it becomes dehydrated, and you don't want that because it will shrink and it will get tears and it will break, and you just don't want that. So you have to move quickly. You have to before that. First of all, we had to actually excavate it because this was not the deepest point of the tunnel. The tunnel would still be like 2 meters below this, the bottom of the tunnel. So if we left it here, it would have been gone forever. So we had to take it out. We had to take it apart, bit by bit. And before doing so, we put all these tags on the wood. And you can also see that on the boat itself, because every plank, every bit has been tagged in when it was still in context, lying in the clay, like some kind of Ravensburger puzzle, like
a jigsaw puzzle.
Like a jigsaw puzzle, yeah. So you can put it together afterwards, in case anything happened with it or got rearranged or something. So you could also always put it back together. After doing that, it had to be taken apart in many different pieces and kept wet, because if it dehydrates, as I told before, the wood will be wrecked, and well, it's already a wreck, of course, but it will be completely destroyed and lost. So that had to be done. And then everything had to be drawn also quickly while it's wet. So that was a lot of work. Every piece has been drawn from 6 different angles, so everything was clear how the wood came out of the ground. And the most important step for preserving the wood is to dip it in polyethylene glycol, PEG, which is a substance that replaces the water in the wood, and also eliminates the oxygen and fills it up, makes it sturdy, and nothing can happen with it anymore.
But after that, you guys also made some cosmetic changes to it, right?
Yes, because we wanted this boat to end up in a museum and just have a pile of planks that wouldn't fit together. No one.
Nah, not really appealing, no.
I know. So it went to, of course, it went to Ketelhaven, to Nyssa, to be preserved over there. But then it was brought to Archeologie in Delft, and they worked for more than a year to make the boat into a boat again, because it was a pile of planks. You couldn't really do anything with it, but they made a frame, as you see below the boat as well.
Oh yeah.
And this frame accommodates this exact ship. It's made accustomed to this ship, and the planks that were all flattened out due to drying and stuff, they had to be reshaped. So they went back to all the drawings and all the photographs that were made in the field, and they started puzzling it back again, basically.
Yeah, and they first made a miniature, right? And they have it. Oh, they have it here.
Yeah. This is one of 3 miniatures they made. They first made one which was too perfect, was too much like how a punt should look like. It wasn't actually this punt. So they made another one which was a bit crooky, but served its purpose. And then a third one to see if they could really fiddle with the pieces, but it would have been too much work. It would compromise perhaps the quality of the wood. So they went for this second design, which is a one-on-one copy. Of course, it's a lot smaller, but it's a one-on-one copy of what has been built over here.
So they reconstructed the 750-year-old jigsaw puzzle,
Yes.
and then they bended back the walls into shape, right?
Yes. And this is due to the PEG, the polyethylene glycol. Yes, I practiced on this word. To reshape the planks, mainly those on the sides, but also to flatten the base of the boat again. They used an oven to heat up the PEG, which is a kind of a waxy material, and were able to bend it back. So they put the planks where they were supposed to be, and then with some kind of thongs and wooden boards, they made the boat into the right shape and let it settle and get into its correct shape, and then recreate the back end and some of the planks that were missing from the boat itself.
Yes.
And that's what we have here.
Yeah, so actually, basically, they didn't do a lot to it. They had all the parts, they found it intact, but they need to take it apart for restoration and conservation purposes. And after that, they just put it in the magic stuff, which I'm not going to pronounce, and put it back into shape and into the right order. So it's pretty, and that turns into a pretty amazing artifact. Okay, so in archaeology, you can date things according to where you found them in the ground, but also another technique was used to date this object.
For this boat, we used, excuse me, we used dendrochronology. Dendrochronology, yes, it's also another difficult word. It checks out when the tree was cut down to be used to make planks and thus to make a boat. So, if you, for instance, look at this this boat, the planks inside here, they have all these lines, all these growth lines, and each line represents a year that has gone by in which in which the tree was living. So the bigger the boat, the more lines it has, and the better a year, so more sun and more water, the thicker such a line is. So if you take a segment of one of these planks, which never really contains the center and just not the outside, because you want the good bit of the wood, not the barge on the outside, you can see when the tree lived during the period when it was. You can see when the tree lived approximately.
Because you compare it to other trees from the same period, right?
Yes, yes. It's like a barcode you see in shops. You have all these lines, different thicknesses. You can fit it in where it, when the tree lived, because you have all these years, good years, bad years over a course of millennia, and if you find the wood and you fit it somewhere in this line, you can see what age. In what year the tree has lived.
Yes, and when it was, when it lived at least. So when did these trees from this boat live?
Well, we dated it between 1269 and 1277. So that's the date. So we 1269 was the date we gave the wood, but we gave it a buffer at 8 years before that and 8 years after that. So that means from 1261 to 1277. We can be sure that this boat was the wood for this boat was cut. Yes.
Yes.
So. And this, of course, I just reminded myself, this corresponds with some historical evidence we found, because the name Rotterdam has first been mentioned in 1283. So we know for sure that the dam has been built before 1283. So this corresponds with when the wood was cut for this boat. And we also believe that the dam was built at around 1270. And this also corresponds with the building period for this boat. So the boat was built before, the dam was built before it was mentioned in a manuscript. So that fits neatly together.
So in other words, this boat is pretty amazing. It's linked through Rotterdam history in a very distinct way. It was exactly at the start of Rotterdam. It made it possible to create the dam.
Correct.
Which made Rotterdam.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch now to another camera, to the same camera, because we're quickly going to do a Q&A for as long as we have time. So you can send in your questions if you want to, but we also had some questions already sent in. So Rowan asked, what are the predecessors to this boat? Because did they use boats for this for a long time, or?
It's a model that has been used since the Roman era, as I said at the beginning, and it has basically always looked the same. But of course, every maker does something a bit different to another. but it was basically this type of boat. It didn't have a predecessor, and it's just a boat. I mean, it's a boat.
It's the most basic boat.
Yeah.
Let's be like, it's an amazing like, I love this basic boat. It's still like a very, if you draw a boat, this is the boat you will draw, right?
Almost, yeah. It of course has a flat bottom.
No, just be nice to the boat.
It has a flat bottom, missing the rear, Of course, when you think of a simple boat, it has a keel.
That's true. Yeah.
Tip bottom. But this one is flat, so it was also usable in marshy lands with a lot of water, of course. But it's a flat bottom boat. A flat
bottom boat.
Yeah.
The famous Queen song, "Flat Bottom Boat."
Yes.
Yes. So Alex asks, have there ever been a replica made of this boat? Do people experiment with this?
Well, that's quite interesting. At this moment, we're actually recreating this boat. For those who haven't heard of it before, the educational archaeological terrain in Vlaardingen, Masa Muda, there at that experimental archaeology site, yes, basically. And there they have already built some farms over there as well, like the Rotta Huis, which we excavated at the Markthal. But now they're also making this boat, and it should be a boat that works. So we're gonna try it out in a few months.
Which is really cool.
Even a few weeks.
That's really cool. So we kind of need to go back there when it's done.
Yeah.
Good.
Maybe do
Great.
a live stream over there as well.
Exactly. And from my phone in the water, I'll
Yeah.
try to maneuver
Your
that
phone,
boat.
yes.
Yes. So Sophie asked, what is your favorite thing about this boat?
Oh, you go first.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I kind of love this boat because I love the city where I live, and Rotterdam wouldn't have been possible without this boat. Because the building of the dam made it possible to have continuous population, people living there continuously, which made it possible to grow as a city and become the city which it is now. So it's a pretty boat, it's a very rare find, it's in amazing condition, but mainly how it's linked to the city that I love so much is my favorite thing about this boat. So what is your favorite thing about this boat?
For me, that it's on exhibition over here, so that everyone can see this boat that has been so important
So
to the entire
big as nerds like me can also fangirl on this boat.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not just like tucked away or anything. You can really walk around it. You can almost. I shall not touch it, but you could basically touch it.
Yeah, it's like, and it makes history. Tangible, yeah, in a very realistic way. Okay, Kate asked something. I was wondering if there are any ways that objects... Okay, sorry, I will give this to you right now.
Let me see. I was wondering if there were any objects found linked to the boat that help to understand the function it played in the building of the dam. Let me see. Yes, actually. Well, what is most important is that this boat has been used to close off the dam.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, things were found with the boat as well, because when you gotta close something off quickly, you need stuff. So finds were found with the boat. There was mainly shards and stuff like that. There were also some better finds. We have a lot of examples here. They're not all found at this excavation, but this gives a general idea of the things we come across at such an excavation. But what's also nice to mention is that this is not the only boat that has been found. Of course, this is the most interesting boat, the most complete boat, but we've also found a barge. In Dutch we call it an aak. That boat has been filled up with bricks, because when the dam broke after this dam had been built, they also had to close off the dam again and used a different boat. They filled that up with bricks, made it sink to the bottom to close off the dam again. So that boat has been found with its bricks.
Yeah, and also one of the sluizen locks, one of the water locks, they also reused part of a boat, right?
Yes.
So a lot of recycling going on.
Yeah, well, yeah, a boat is a big piece of wood, and for a lock in that period you needed a big piece of wood, so it was perfect. Yeah.
Nikki was asking one more thing and on the live stream, which is maybe we didn't mention that clearly, but this boat was found at the Hoogstraat at Blaak, so really in the city center. So also the current city center. If you go to our big square near the market hall, which is like, of course, our iconic architecture, that is where this boat was found. So it's really at the heart of Rotterdam, historically, but also physically or occasionally speaking.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think this was basically it, right, for our live stream. Is there anything else you would like to mention, or?
Well, the thing I would like to mention is we've only given an introduction, basically. You should really
This is the crash course.
Yes, you should really come and visit this museum. There's a lot of stuff going on here. You can get more information on how it was found, where it was found, what the impact was on the city. You can also get literature on this excavation. Come and visit it. It's well, yeah, it's special.
Yeah, there are actually more reasons to come and visit it, because they are about to close the museum due to lack of funding. So please come here, check out their social media, but also just check out their website and their sources, because it's just, I think it really, like, I'm a big museum nerd, and I really think that what they're doing here on educational level is exceptional. So please check out this museum and similar museums like it, because we need them so badly. Last thing that I want to say is that actually I want to give away something really small for people who stayed all the way with us with this course. Let's see. So for actual educational purposes, they made these. So this is a little model of the boat which you can construct yourself. So I will give, let's say, I will send 5 of these away. So please, the first 5 people who react, who send me a DM, will get one of these at home. So if you want one of these small, like, I love them. They just make me really happy. If you want to make your little own punt, just send me a DM and I will send it to you. Okay, that was it, right, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I think
me
you did a good job.
Yeah, first live stream for me, so quite an experience.
Yeah,
nice location as well. So,
I love it here. It's so cool. Okay, well, I would just say, how do you actually? Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.